through the tall windows of Wilson Manor, turning the marble floor gold. Chief Wilson sat in his favorite leather armchair, a cup of steaming ginger tea beside him. At 63, the billionaire still cut a striking figure, broad shoulders wrapped in a crisp white agbada, sharp eyes behind thin reading glasses. Across from him, his only son David leaned back on the sofa, looking both proud and tired. The young man had landed that morning from the United States, his medical degree finally in the bag. He still wore the simple navy polo and jeans he'd traveled in, suitcase unopened upstairs. Chief Wilson cleared his throat. "My son, you have made me happy. A doctor in the family, just as your late mother wished." David smiled softly at the mention of his mother. "Thank you, Dad. Her dream kept me going on the hard nights." The chief set his cup down. "There is one more promise you made, to marry soon and wisely." David's smile thinned. "Yes, Dad, I remember. I have watched 2 young women in Wilson Group, both good workers but different in spirit." David raised a brow. "You have match made already?" "Not forced, only suggested." The chief held up 2 fingers. "Grace, our HR officer. Humble, gentle, never speaks harshly. And Nina, bright marketing star, full of ideas, dresses like tomorrow's fashion headline." David chuckled. "Opposite ends of the rainbow." "Exactly. I see promise in both. Meet them, talk, then decide." David tapped his chin, eyes suddenly playful. "Or, let me meet everyone at once, but as someone else." Chief Wilson blinked. "Speak clearly, David. I want to know who likes me for me, not for money or titles. Let me work in your company as an ordinary man. Let me be a company driver." The chief stared, then burst into low laughter. "You, the new Dr. Wilson, driving pool cars?" "Yes. Give me 6 weeks. If I find true character, I will reveal myself. If not, I keep searching." Chief Wilson leaned back, thinking. "The plan is risky, but your mother used to say the deepest gold hides under plain earth." He extended his hand. "Do it, but keep your promise. No reveal until your heart is sure." David shook the hand, grin wide. "Deal, Dad." David heads to the driver's quarters with nothing but a duffel bag and a daring grin. Before dawn the next day, David slipped into the estate garage. A mechanic handed him faded grey overalls and an old cap. "Here's the key to driver #7's room, sir." Bro," the man whispered, half confused that the boss's son suddenly wanted grease under his nails. "Call me Dave," the young doctor said. "No, sir, for the next 6 weeks." He found the pool car assigned to him, a dusty Toyota Camry with a stubborn starter. David climbed in, opened the logbook, and scribbled his new name. Dave Obioma, driver #7. By 7 a.m. he rolled into the staff gate of Wilson Group. No security salute, no red carpet. The guard glanced at the pool car badge, waved him through, and that was that. A billionaire's air became invisible. The driver's lounge smelled of engine oil and instant coffee. 4 other men nodded at the newcomer. One slapped his back. "You're the doctor's look-alike, oh. See, fine face." David laughed. "Maybe he looks like me." They all roared. A supervisor marched in. "Driver #7, first duty. Shuttle HR team to the annex by 9. Keep to the schedule." David saluted. "Yes, sir." Outside, Chief Wilson watched from the top-floor window, unseen. Pride tugged at his heart, mixed with worry. "Reveal only when you're sure," he whispered. At 8:55 a.m., the gray Camry stops at the main entrance. Grace and Nina step out together. First impressions are about to be made. The day grew hot fast. Typical Lagos humidity. David stood by the Camry, wiping the windshield. The automatic doors slid open and staff streamed out. Grace emerged first, a light blue blouse tucked into a navy skirt, her natural curls pinned back neatly. She paused when she saw the sweating driver. "Good morning," she said, genuine warmth in her tone. "Morning, Ma," David replied. She produced a cold sachet of water from her tote. "You look thirsty. Please take." David blinked. Few executives offered water to drivers. He accepted with thanks, sipping quickly. The water tasted better than any imported juice. Moments later, Nina strutted out in 6-inch heels, bright red lipstick, and a designer purse that probably cost more than the Camry. She tapped her watch. "Driver, AC better be working. I can't melt before a client meeting." She slid into the back seat without eye contact. Grace sat up front. "Thank you, driver. Sorry, what's your name?" "Dave, Ma." "Call me Grace." She smiled. Nina's voice floated from the rear. "Grace, leave the help alone. He's paid to drive, not chat." Grace met David's eyes, embarrassed. He gave a tiny shake of his head. "It's fine." Halfway through the ride, the AC sputtered. Nina hissed. "Typical. When the real boss's son arrives, I'll replace these jalopies and half the drivers." David noted the words. He glanced in the mirror. Grace looked out the window, cheeks pink with discomfort at Nina's arrogance. At the annex, Grace thanked him again. Nina swept past, phone glued to her ear. "Yes, babe, our prince will show up soon. I'll have my ring ready," she giggled. David pulled a small notebook from the glove box and wrote, "Grace. Offered water. Kind. Nina. Rude. Loves status. Who is kind when no one's watching?" Rain clouds gather. An evening duty with Nina would test Dave's patience. And his uniform. The sky cracked open at 6 p.m. Thunder rumbled as sheets of rain turned the company courtyard into a shallow river. David waited under the carport. His last assignment was to drop Nina at her apartment across town. She arrived frowning, high heels in one hand, umbrella in the other. "Driver, take me to Golden Palm Spa first. I need steam therapy after this miserable day." David checked the duty sheet. "Ma, destination approved by transport desk is your apartment. I'm sorry, I can't change route without clearance." Nina's eyes blazed. "Do you know who I am? Call your supervisor. Better yet, hand me the keys. I'll drive myself." "Policy says, policy my foot." She yanked the door, mud splashing onto David's trouser leg and shirt. Rain soaked him instantly, but he kept his voice calm. "Please enter, Ma, I'll take you home." She huffed, dropped into the seat, and slammed the door so hard the car shuddered. The drive was silent, only wipers and Nina's angry breathing. At her building gate, she thrust a wet bill toward him. "For dry cleaning your cheap clothes." David didn't take it. "Thank you, Ma, but it's fine." She tossed the note on the dashboard and stalked off into the rain. On the way back, David spotted movement near the staff bus stop. 2 cleaners, both women much older than his father, struggled under a leaking shelter. Grace stood with them, her own umbrella stretched wide so none of them got wetter. Her blouse was drenched at the shoulders. Still, she smiled and chatted, waiting for their staff shuttle. David parked, stepped out into the drizzle, and watched quietly. Same storm, 2 different hearts, he mused. Later, in his small room, David washed the mud from his uniform. He stared at the wet fabric and thought of Grace's gentle voice versus Nina's scorn. Would Grace still smile if she knew I was the heir? He wondered, sleep stealing over him. The compound still slept when David unlocked the pool car shed at 5 a.m. Only the distant muezzin's call and a chorus of crickets broke the dawn hush. He was about to turn the ignition when he heard a soft groan. Old Mama Rose, the company cook, stood beside the battered kitchen van, hand on her back, staring at a flat tire. "Morning, Mama," David said. "Let me handle that." "But you'll soil your uniform, my son." He grinned, rolled up his sleeves, and within minutes the van sat on its spare. Mama Rose's gratitude poured out in half English, half Igbo prayers. She pressed a warm sachet of kunu into his hand before driving off. 2 hours later, after the staff shuttle run, David returned to the Camry and found a small food flask on the dashboard. A sticky note read, "Driver Dave, thank you for helping Mama Rose. You must be hungry. Grace." He opened the lid. Slices of soft yam and pepper stew still steaming. The smell carried him to childhood breakfasts in his late mother's kitchen. He bowed his head in silent thanks, then ate with fingers and a wide smile. Across the courtyard, bright red heels clicked like castanets. Nina stepped out of her ride, noticed the flask, and narrowed her eyes. A whisper of perfume and suspicion followed her into the building. By midweek, the corridors of Wilson Group buzzed louder than the photocopiers. Someone claimed the chief's mysterious son had finally landed in Nigeria and would soon tour the departments. Nina seized the rumor like a handbag. She floated from desk to desk, gifting imported chocolate bars and snapping selfies in executive chairs. Caption: future daughter-in-law doing early inspection. At lunch, she planted herself in the boardroom doorway so every manager passing by could catch her, accidentally, rehearsing a curtsy. Laughter followed her, part amusement, part envy. Meanwhile, Grace kept her head down, finalizing payroll figures. When she rose to stretch, she spotted David through the window, shirt damp, pushing a trolley of sealed HR files to the archive room. She packed rice and vegetables in a clean lunchbox, slipped downstairs, and beckoned him behind the stairwell. "Eat before the next run," she whispered, cheeks pink. A janitor sweeping the corridor paused. His broom slowed as he watched Grace hand the lunchbox to the driver. He raised a knowing eyebrow, tucked the memory away, and kept sweeping, straight toward Nina's office. Friday evening traffic clogged the exit ramp. The big company shuttle coughed twice, then died. Staff groaned. David, escorting the bus in the Camry, hopped out and waved cars around. He opened the shuttle's hood, but the faulty fuel pump had given up completely. Grace was among the stranded. "We'll walk to the gate," she suggested, rolling up her sleeves. Together they pushed the heavy bus off the road shoulder. Rain clouds threatened, but laughter rose each time the bus rolled an inch. Exhausted, they left it for the mechanics and continued on foot. At a roadside kiosk, they bought suya wrapped in newspaper and sat on a broken culvert. Grease smudged Grace's blouse, dust painted David's face, yet conversation flowed like cool Zobo. David confessed, "I admire how you treat everyone the same, drivers, cooks, cleaners." Grace shrugged. "My father was a carpenter. I know how it feels to be invisible." She searched his eyes. "Character lasts longer than cash, Dave." Under a flickering street lamp, that truth felt like a promise. When they reached the staff gate, Grace hugged him, quick, shy, but a camera flash sliced the darkness. The janitor's phone captured the embrace before vanishing behind a parked truck. Monday 8 a.m., the company WhatsApp group exploded. Cleaner Chucks. See our HR angel with her new lover, attached. 3 grainy pictures of Grace and the driver sharing suya and that hug. Nina's manicured finger hovered above forward to executives. She smiled, then summoned Chucks to her cubicle. "Good job," she purred, sliding 2 fat brown envelopes across her desk. "Keep following them. I want proof they break company rules." Minutes later, she burst into HR like a glam tornado. "Grace," she barked, "explain these unprofessional photos, romancing a subordinate on company time?" Staff fell silent as Grace studied the prints. Her calm surprised everyone. "Thank you for bringing them, Nina. I'll add them to my own report." Nina blinked. "Your report?" "Yes," Grace said. "When I speak to Chief Wilson this afternoon, I'll include every detail. How I met Dave, how we respect policy, and how the images were obtained through paid stalking." She folded the photos neatly. "Feel free to join me. Just be ready." Nina's lipstick-red smile twitched. "You think a driver will save you? Your sweet face won't look so nice in the unemployment line." Grace's eyes stayed steady. "Report us. Just be ready for what comes next." Chief Wilson listened without interrupting as Grace recounted everything. Flat tire at dawn, shared lunches, the broken shuttle, the hug, even her confusion about her own growing feelings. When she finished, she set the incriminating photos on his desk. "I understand company policy, sir. If you wish to transfer me or discipline me, I accept." The old man removed his glasses, eyes moist with admiration. "My daughter, honesty is rarer than diamonds. Thank you." He slid the photos back. "No discipline. Only a request: come to my home this Saturday for lunch. Bring your best smile." Grace left the office confused, but relieved. An hour later, Nina's phone rang. "Nina, my dear," Chief Wilson said warmly, "I would be honored if you joined me for a small luncheon on Saturday. A very special guest will attend." Nina almost squealed. This is it, the proposal day. She ordered a bespoke yellow lace gown before the call even ended. Across town, David sat in the driver's lounge when the chief's personal aide handed him a sealed note. "Son, your test nears its end. Prepare for Saturday." He pocketed the note, heart racing.
6 weeks of grease and secrets would soon yield truth. The Wilson estate spread out like a private resort at the edge of Ikoyi, hedges trimmed as sharp as soldiers, fountains whispering over marble fish. By noon on Saturday, the kitchen staff rushed in rhythmic silence, laying out china and crystal beneath silk-draped canopies. Grace's taxi rumbled to the front gate 15 minutes early. She stepped out in a simple peach gown and low heels, hands trembling around a small clutch. The guard checked his list and waved her through the winding drive.
Past the water lilies she paused. 2 gardeners trimmed bougainvillea in the sun. Grace greeted them with a warm, "Good afternoon, sir," and they straightened, startled that a guest noticed them. Farther ahead, she spotted the household drivers polishing chrome on the chief's convoy. She thanked them for keeping the cars gleaming. Their smiles followed her up the steps. Inside the foyer, a steward guided her to a side lounge scented with jasmine. Grace's heart thumped. Why am I here first? She decided to wait standing, hands folded, eyes tracing the ancestral portraits on the wall. 20 minutes later, the roar of a German engine shattered the calm. Nina's canary yellow sports car screeched to a halt, scattering gravel like confetti. She emerged in a body-hugging lace gown, diamond studs blazing in the noon light. A young valet in a plain cream shirt jogged forward. David, but without the driver's cap or grease stains. Nina didn't recognize him. She dangled her keys. "Park it somewhere it won't get dusty, boy, and mind the rims, they're custom." David bowed slightly, accepting the keys. "Yes, madam." She clicked her heels toward the doors, barely acknowledging the steward's greeting. At the threshold, she paused to inspect her reflection in the glass, practicing a coy smile she imagined would melt the chief and his mysterious son. From an upstairs balcony, Chief Wilson watched the contrasting arrivals. One woman sprinkling kindness like seeds, the other scattering arrogance like broken glass. He raised his walking stick, tapped it twice on the marble. A bell rang. Servants moved. Time for the curtain to rise. A liveried attendant appears. "Ladies, the chief requests your presence in the grand salon." The grand salon soared 2 stories high, walls paneled with polished mahogany, chandeliers tossing rainbows onto Persian rugs. Grace entered first. Nina glided in seconds later, lips poised for a dazzling smile. Chief Wilson stood near the hearth, regal in a midnight blue agbada embroidered with silver thread. Beside him, a tall man faced the window, back to the room, dressed in an impeccably cut charcoal suit. "Welcome, my daughters," the chief began, voice warm yet measured. "Today I introduce the person who will steer Wilson Group while I rest." Nina's pulse hammered its happening. She clasped her hands demurely, ready for rings, cameras, applause. The chief continued, "Loyalty, humility, and respect matter more to me than titles. I searched quietly for those qualities." He nodded toward the suited figure. "Turn around, my son." The man pivoted. Grace gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Nina's knees buckled. She grabbed a chair back. It was David, the dusty driver, the man she scolded, now radiant in wealth's natural clothing. David's gaze swept the room, resting gently on Grace. "Thank you for waiting, Dad." Murmurs rippled among staff lining the walls. The chief lifted a palm. "Allow me to present Dr. David Wilson, my heir, your new acting transport director." Grace's surprise melted into a joyous, incredulous smile. Nina found her voice. "That can't be. He's a driver." David stepped forward, calm. "I was a driver for 6 weeks, yes. Long enough to learn who respects people without uniforms." He opened a leather folder on the side table and withdrew a single page. "I kept notes, Nina, of every time you mocked the staff, threatened to sack half the drivers, called me a poor boy." Color drained from Nina's cheeks. He turned to Grace. "But I also noted kindness. Bottles of water, homemade lunches, umbrellas shared in the rain." His voice softened. "Thank you, Grace, for seeing a person where others saw a post." Chief Wilson addressed the room. "Wilson Group cannot thrive on pride. Effective immediately, Miss Nina. You will take a compulsory leave pending review of your conduct." He signaled discreetly. 2 security guards approached. Nina's mouth moved soundlessly. Pearls quivered at her throat. She spun toward Grace, eyes blazing. "You set me up!"
Grace shook her head gently. You set yourself up, Nina. The guards escorted Nina toward the double doors, her heels scraping the marble like reluctant brakes. She looked back one last time, but the chandeliers no longer sparkled for her. David faced the remaining staff. From today onward, every worker, gardener to manager, receives the same respect. That is my first directive. Applause, soft and sincere, rose around the salon. The chief whispers something to David, who smiles and beckons Grace toward the rear patio and the estate garages. A surprise awaits. Evening painted the sky tangerine as David led Grace along a cobblestone path to the garages where pool cars slept. Lanterns had been strung between the pillars, their tiny bulbs winking like fireflies. At the far bay stood the old grey Camry, washed, waxed, wheels gleaming, and wrapped in a wide ivory ribbon that crossed the hood like an elegant sash. Grace covered her mouth. Your pool car? Our first meeting place, David said, eyes bright. It carried me to you, mud and all. He opened the passenger door. On the seat lay a velvet ring box. He retrieved it, then knelt on the smooth concrete. Grace Anini, he said, voice steady but thick with emotion. When I was a nobody to the world, you treated me like somebody. You fed me, defended me, laughed with me under broken street lamps. You loved the driver. Will you marry the man? Tears glittered on Grace's lashes. Yes, yes, David, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the simple gold ring, forged from his late mother's wedding band, onto her finger. A cheer erupted. Chief Wilson, the household staff, and even the drivers emerged from behind SUVs clapping. Mama Rose dabbed her eyes with a napkin. The gardeners waved pruning shears in celebration. The chief stepped forward, resting a fatherly hand on each of their shoulders. May your road together be smooth, and when it is rough, may kindness be your spare tire. Laughter rippled. David raised Grace's hand. Our first joint project starts tomorrow. Wilson Driving Academy. Free lessons and jobs for youths who think dreams are parked out of reach. Grace beamed. And free suya on graduation day, she added, earning more applause. Under the lantern glow, they shared their first kiss as an engaged couple. Somewhere beyond the estate walls, city traffic groaned and hurried, but inside the garage, time idled, engine purring with promise. 6 months later, invitations will fly across Lagos, wedding bells, a convoy of smiling drivers, and an academy ribbon ready to cut. But that's another act of their story. 6 months rolled by like fresh asphalt under warm Lagos skies. In a newly painted compound on the mainland, a bold sign now read, Wilson Driving Academy, skill, dignity, second chances. David and Grace cut the ribbon on opening day, cameras flashing. Beside them stood Chief Wilson, Mama Rose, and all the company drivers. Polished shoes, broad smiles. 40 young men and women from low-income neighborhoods crowded behind the gate, clutching admission letters that cost them nothing but hope. Welcome, Grace told the students, voice clear through the small PA system. Today you learn to move a car. Tomorrow, you move your life. David added, anyone who finishes with top marks gets an automatic job in Wilson Group's transport unit, or seed money to start a taxi business. No one is left idle. Thunderous applause answered. The first class followed instructors toward a row of compact sedans donated by the company. Each bonnet wore a decal in bright green, driven by dreams. 2 weeks later, Lagos Island buzzed with a different kind of traffic. A ribbon of 20 silver saloon cars, headlights twinkling in midday sun, inched from the cathedral where David and Grace had just exchanged vows. Every vehicle was driven by a Wilson employee, some senior chauffeurs, some fresh graduates from the academy's pilot batch. They honked in rhythm. Peepa poopa! Pedestrians waved, hawkers shouted blessings. Grace, radiant in an ivory lace gown, leaned out of the lead car's sunroof, bouquet high. David, beside her in a cream tux, laughed when the bouquet almost flew into a Danfo bus. Even the bus conductor blew a cheeky kiss. Lagos loves a spectacle, and this one felt pure. Chief Wilson rode in the second car, wiping tears that danced between pride and memory of his late wife. She would be dancing on that roof too, he whispered to himself. Across town, clouds gathered. Outside a small roadside canteen in Surulere, A flickering TV balanced on a crate. The lunchtime crowd watched the wedding convoy glide across the news ticker. Billionaire's son marries HR sweetheart. Couple launches free driving school. Under a rusty awning stood Nina. Her bright lace gown had been pawned months ago to pay rent. Today she wore faded jeans, a once white blouse, and no umbrella. Raindrops started to fall, dotting the dusty street like spilled mercury. She hugged her arms, staring at the screen, at Grace's smile, at David's hand steady on the car roof. A pang twisted her stomach, half hunger, half regret. A Kiki Napep splashed watery grit onto her shoes. Cheap heels, bought at a roadside bend, felt heavier than stone. Nina signaled a yellow taxi. As she climbed in, the driver, one of the academy's new trainees, clicked the meter and said politely, "Good afternoon, madam. Where to?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then simply muttered, "Anywhere but here." The taxi pulled into traffic, taillights blinking through the drizzle. Evening draped the city in bronze when the wedding party reached the academy grounds for the reception. Long tables overflowed with jollof rice, fried plantain, and suya. Drivers wore branded t-shirts that read, "I take the high road." David tapped a microphone. "Before the DJ blows the speakers," he joked, "we have one more surprise." Grace unveiled a gleaming minibus, a gift from the couple to the academy's top student, a single mother named Kemi, who once pushed wheelbarrows at Mile 12 Market. Kemi wept as she accepted the keys. "This bus will feed my children, sir," she whispered. Grace hugged her. "Just promise to hire more women drivers." Laughter and cheers floated into the warm night. Fireworks popped above the lagoon, their colors reflecting on shiny bonnets below. Later, when the last song faded and the final slice of cake disappeared, David and Grace walked to the old grey Camry parked quietly at the compound's edge, still ribbon-wrapped, now a museum piece. They sat inside, hand in hand, listening to rain tap the roof. Grace traced the steering wheel. "From this seat to all of this," she said softly. David kissed her knuckles. A muddy road led to gold. They stepped out, locked the doors, and left the Camry under soft security lights, a reminder that big engines can start with small sparks. As the newlyweds drove away in a modest SUV, Grace at the wheel, of course, a final message scrolled across a digital billboard outside the academy. "A good heart is the finest vehicle to reach love." The lights turned green. New roads awaited,